Call the Washington County Board of Education April 3rd meeting to order. Before we get started, we're going to have Mr. Walters pray for us, and then Mackenzie's going to do the pledge to flag.
Please stand. Let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for the beauty outside. And God, we just thank you for your omnipresence everywhere, your all-knowing knowledge. And God, just help us to do our job tonight. This is our passion. This is why we're up here. The kids, teachers, parents, the community. God, we just love doing what we do, but we want to make sure that we do it with your wisdom and knowledge. And also, number one priority is give you glory for everything. God, be with our country, be with our county. We love you and praise you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have some students that we would like to recognize from South Central Elementary School. Chase Perry and John Allen Martin. If you'll come on up, Chase. Is John here?
John's not here.
I don't think John's here.
Oh, yeah.
What about John McKinney?
Yeah, there he is.
There he is. There you go.
Oh, there he is.
Mr. McKinney, you can come up too. So we learned that there was somewhat of a situation when you are on a field trip in Johnson City. And you all, which one of you discovered the item in the restroom?
I did, sir.
You did? Yes, sir. So you discovered a firearm in the restroom.
Yes, sir.
And immediately went and reported it. And I guess you stood outside to make sure nobody went in the restroom while you were getting help. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, we just wanted to take the opportunity to commend you all on, doing the right thing, acting quickly, possibly saving, several people. The firearm in the hands of the wrong person certainly it creates a very dangerous situation, and you all handled it perfectly. When coming across something you probably never expected to walk in on something like that on a field trip in Johnson City at the mall. So we really want to commend you for your right actions. Very thoughtful, going to a responsible adult, getting help. And also taking and knowing, being so aware that you wanted to make sure that till you got help that that area was as secure as you could keep it, and just make sure nobody else put themselves in harm's way. So we just wanted to congratulate you and wanted to do that in a public meeting. Wanted people to know that our students make good decisions, and you certainly are an example of that in the community, in addition to the board and myself and the school system and all your teachers and your principal and all of your peers and your parents and all the families in Washington County. We want to thank you for doing the right thing. Sure. Thank you very much.
Where's our parents at? Y'all raised two fine young men.
Thanks for educating them on what to do.
You guys don't want to give a speech?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So we have some representatives from Bright Ridge with us this evening.
Mr. Dykes
Mr.
and team.
Dykes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here. First, I like you, John and Chase, thank you all so much. That's outstanding. Proud that their parents are. they've raised some great kids, and the school system certainly educated some great kids to do something like that. That's outstanding. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here just to discuss some things that is dear to Bright Ridge's heart, especially, which is community and which is schools. When the solar started a few years ago, we had a chance to meet with Dr. Boyd and some others and offer an opportunity for the school system to participate in that solar farm, the Martin Solar Farm, certainly named for Ralph Martin, who was well known in the community and a great longtime board member at Bright Ridge, just a great man. So we wanted to honor him with that. But we also want to do something that brings something back to our community. This solar farm, Martin, is saving our customers about almost $700,000 a year from what we would pay TVA for that same electricity. So that's a huge impact. But also, we had the opportunity to work with Dr. Boyd and the schools and with you all to say, what can we do to give back? So roughly 11% of that solar farm every year is the proceeds of that is dedicated to the Washington County schools. The first year we had a partial payment because it wasn't online. It was around $47,000 that we were able to give to the schools to put to use for kids like that, just outstanding education. Last year was around $77,000. And this year, we'd like to present you all a check for $82,245 to help the school system and hopefully put it to great use. So we just want to thank you for letting us participate, be a part of this great community, and also to be able to see what the impact is with great kids like Donna Chase, the education they're getting. So now I have to ask for they say always get a picture. Two great heads. If somebody if someone else would like to join us, that'd be great.
Have a filter on that. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this part of the meeting over to Mr. Gordon. He has some recognitions that he would like to do at this time.
Sure. We used to have an honor and we recognize students. We're going to recognize special teachers, special and teachers synonymous. We also have a special district person that serves all of our schools across our district, our coordinated school health supervisor, Ms. Kelly Wagner. In March 6th, and I think it was somewhat a surprise to her, at a state conference, she was recognized as Tennessee State Supervisor of the Year for Coordinated School Health. And we just wanted to publicly recognize her at this board meeting, thank her for all the work that she does and her team does, from our school nurses, counselors. The coordinated school health encompasses both physical wellness, mental wellness, from school nurses. It even works in partnership with school nutrition, and staff wellness and well-being, student wellness and well-being. So coordinated school health is a big umbrella, and Ms. Wagner does a great job in leadership in Washington County, serving our students and our community and our staff, but also, and rightly so, and it's no surprise to me, recognized by her peers at the state level and across the state as this year's Tennessee Supervisor of the Year in Coordinated School Health. Ms. Wagner, we want to just publicly thank you and just we appreciate you being a big part of our community, and it's our privilege to be on your team.
Thank you.
Everything that we do is a result of everyone working together.
Sure.
We have
So Tennessee Coordinated School Health, you can help me, really kicked off, I guess, in the early 2000s as far as a statewide initiative. And, it started out on few schools, few pilot schools, and then now it's in basically every school system, all 146 school systems across Tennessee. And Tennessee is actually one of the models, one of the few states that has that model consistent throughout and across the state, and support within their school system, supporting students, staff, and families through the services provided by Coordinated School Health. Anything else I need to add?
Very well.
Thank you, appreciate it. Whether COVID or after COVID, you know, the team played a big part in COVID in supporting many aspects of the school system and connecting to the community. But, you know, the need is there. We have school nurses in every school. We have social workers that work with clusters of schools that support our school counselors. You know, again, like I said, our school nutrition works closely with Coordinated School Health. There's also a component that supports physical education and our physical education teachers and their training and the focus they have. So it's a big program and it's well led. Thank you.
We recognize our tenure
Yes.
list now.
Yeah, so I'll just stay right here. Last month, you know, the process in Tennessee, teachers can earn tenure in a school system, in a Tennessee school system, after 2 consecutive years of above average performance on a teacher evaluation. Their overall level of effectiveness in Tennessee is determined by an evaluation model that every teacher is evaluated every year. So a new teacher, for example, their first 3 years is a probationary period, and year 4 and 5 is a probationary period. But in your year 4 and 5, if their overall outcomes are at level above expectation, or significantly above expectation, and also in year 5, 2 years in a row, then they become eligible for tenure. And in Tennessee, tenure is granted by the Board of Education, recommended by the superintendent, working with school principals that work with teachers every day and are part of the evaluation process and the support, direct support. So our teachers each year that have earned that opportunity, the board takes the recommendation and then acts on it. And from that point, the teacher officially earns the status of tenure. And what does that mean? Well, it means that they've met those qualifications, that they're exemplary in their profession, that they're a big part of our school system, and we want them for a very long time. And we want to have that partnership with our teachers, supported by from our board, from my office to the principals, and then also on the other side, support from our families and our community. Teaching is a very difficult job. And just the milestone of reaching tenure is just one of many successes that our teachers should see. And thankfully, especially this year's group, we had 27 total, not all of them could be here. So we just want to publicly recognize them after the formal action was taken at the March 4th board meeting. And we started this afternoon at 4:30, we have just a light reception for all of those taking tenure that were able to come. Just an opportunity for some fellowship and just a small token appreciation from the Board of Education and myself and many others that work to support teachers every day. So as I said downstairs to all the teachers in the room that have earned tenure, and even those that maybe already earned tenure, you're just here not support. Thank you all for the work you do for children in Washington County. So I'll call the names. I feel I'm going to call every name, even if the person is not here, but if your name is called, please come up. It'll be my privilege just to hand you a small certificate, just to mark the milestone. Board members, before I start getting too crazy.
Just want to say there's no more noble profession than being with our kids. So thank you.
As a retired teacher, many years, I remember that date a long time ago. And you've earned it, you've worked hard, congratulations, and I'm glad you're working here in Washington County.
I said a little bit downstairs, but for those that may not have been there, I want to thank you as well. I can think of many teachers had an impact, but I have 3 in my mind that truly their heart spoke to my heart. And even after I got out of school, the relationships continued. And that's what life is about, is relationships. That's the important thing, is relationships. And I just thank God for those, all my teachers, because I was not a good kid. So I've had to go back and I actually apologized to some of them face to face and told them that I was a little better now. But what you all do truly makes an impact. And if you change one kid, one, in your whole career, you're exactly in the place God wants you to be. And you've done exactly what you trained yourself and prepared yourself for. So I want to salute you.
And I want to thank you all for answering the call to teach. It is a profession, but it's more of a calling. As a parent, I thank all of you. How many of you went to Washington County schools? Thank you all. Thank all of you, but thank you all.
Yeah, just not much more to say than what's been said, but I do appreciate what you do for coming and being part of our family here.
I'd just like to say thank you again for everything you do on the daily basis and the challenges you have and the impact you make on the children. And just like made an impact on Mr. Walters over here. I don't know how he made it through, but it's with good people like you that see that it works. I love you. But thank you so much for all that you do. It's so important.
Thank you and congratulations. And I assure you, this board works hard now and will continue to work hard to make you want to stay in Washington. That's very important to us. So, we'll do our very best. You do your best for the kids, we're going to do our best for you. Thank you.
Thank you all. So we'll just, it's alphabetical order, no school alphabetical by name, so just start from the beginning. Josh Armstrong, Daniel Boone High School. Charles Blake, Ridgeview Elementary School. Thank you. Lindsay Blevins, Goose Creek Elementary. She'll let us take over.
She's like a fill in.
You cut my head.
1, 2, 3. We do one more just to make sure. 1, 2, 3.
Show of hands, how many of you care if we get a picture? Most of you probably like, please don't. And hopefully your family members here, they'll get a picture just to make this roll a little bit. It'll be my privilege just to shake your hand. Jeremy Bowman, Grandview Elementary School. Joanna Chapman, which is system-wide speech pathologist. Candy Clevenger, South Central. Oh, yeah. Got it? Yes, sir. Kenny also. We got it. Photography everywhere. Candace True, Fall Branch Elementary. together. All right?
You're gonna get that.
We'll get those pictures. Great. Very important, very important. Ms. Ashley Crowe, SVU Elementary School. August Deacon Brown, Bridge Creek Elementary. Thank you. Victoria Fleming, Grandview Elementary School. Thank you. Dr. Rachel Keaton, Grandview Elementary School. Ashley Jackson, Ridgeview Elementary School. Donna Johnson, Greens Creek Elementary School. Rebecca Lyons, Silver Springs Elementary School. Josh Ogle, David Crockett High School. And the rest of the South. Shada Painter, I don't believe she's here, Fall Branch Elementary School. Andrea Phillips, Daniel Boone High School. That's great, yeah. Thank you. Blake Pierce, Jonesboro Elementary School. David Crockett High School.
Thank you.
Amanda Rowland, Boones Creek Elementary School. Rebecca Schweiker and Silver Springs Elementary School. Congratulations. Mackenzie Sewell, Daniel Boone High School. Eric Sharp, Daniel Boone High School. Donnie Shipley, Daniel Boone High School.
He had two women tell him what the.
Christopher Tiffany, David Crockett High School.
Good job,
Yeah,
Chris.
you could probably make it really good. Donna Widener, Lamar Elementary School. And Jessica Williams, Boones Creek Elementary School. Thank you. That's everyone. Appreciate you all being here and your time, and the families that are here and the friends that are here to support. I said downstairs, I'll end with this, you know, the support of family, friends, and the community of our teachers is so important. Their job, as I said earlier, was very hard. But knowing that they have that kind of support, they can stay focused on what's the most important to all of us is our children and do the best job possible for those children in the classroom. So thank you all for being here, and you all are welcome to stay. Sleep out if you would.
Thank y'all.
We're gonna take a quick break.
5 minutes.
About 5 minutes.
How are you, brother? All right.
That was like a break.
Yeah, I know it is.
I got a minute.
Yes.
I'll try.
going to move into the consideration of the meeting agenda. Does anybody have a recommendation for that?
Make a motion, we approve the meeting agenda as published.
Mr. Rogers.
I would like to make an amendment to the agenda if possible. If we could add a discussion time about the, meeting times.
So that's,
Second.
so I have an amendment to the agenda to add to discussion.
Discussion on the, times of the start of the meetings.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Can we vote on the amendment? Or, no, let me ask for discussion first. Is there any discussion on that? Can we vote on the amendment?
I voted yes.
All three.
All right, so we're gonna make that J under discussion after policy 3.208. Yep. We're gonna vote on the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion on that before we vote?
What do you mean by that?
We have amended. We've added it to the agenda now, now we have to vote.
Okay.
It's okay, you got a little frozen laptop. Oh, do they know this?
The first one,
That was Chatham's.
Chad. Okay, Mr. Chad. Okay. I can vote them.
Voting on the agenda as amended.
Motion carried.
So this is our time for public comment, and we have Mr. Paul. Mrs. Paul, so sorry. Mrs. Paul. I'm going to read our policy here so that we're all aware. There shall be a public comment period for each meeting with actionable items on the agenda with the exception of teacher disciplinary hearings. Comments shall be limited to the topics listed on the agenda. The total public comment period shall be no more than 3 minutes. If an individual wishes to address the board, he or she shall sign up on the form provided before the meeting of the board meeting to request time to speak. Each speaker shall be given no more than 3 minutes. Delegations must select only one individual to speak on their behalf unless otherwise determined by the board. So you'll have 3 minutes, so if you'll state your name and your address, and then you have 3 minutes, and Ellen is going to be our keeper of the time.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jerry Ann Paul, and I currently reside at 126 Sarah's Way. I'm the mother of 2 elementary school-age children currently attending Lamar and 1 3-year-old. I want to begin tonight by thanking each of you for your diligence in your roles. I believe that there is few jobs more important than that of educators and those who support them. So thank you so very much. I would like to go on the record tonight to say that I agree with the recommendation of the Science Textbook Adoption Committee for the Savas Systems textbooks. After reviewing the considered materials, and again, thank you for presenting parents and families in the wider community with the opportunity to review those in person. After reviewing those materials and further research after that period, I found that teachers nationwide recommend Savas textbooks, and especially in science. This system seems to provide ample resources and customization options to fit the needs in the classrooms in real time. So one of the examples that I saw reviewing the materials was the teacher's lab book offers different links or detailed versions of the same lab, which allows teachers to be able to manage their schedule in real time. If a fire drill interrupts their class period, they don't have to scrap the lab completely. They flip a page and they can do it. The Savas textbooks also seem to have intense rigor in the material presented, and I believe that rigor is important because our Washington County students deserve to be adequately challenged with material that's going to not only prepare them for life in this world, but also to hopefully encourage a lifelong curiosity and love of continued learning. And I believe the best option of the materials being considered is the Savas System textbook, along with the committee's recommendation. Thank you so very much for allowing me to speak and give my opinion. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paul. Thank you.
Kimberly Jones.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Jones. I'm a resident of Jonesboro, and both of my children go to Jonesboro Elementary School. As many of you received an email from me yesterday stating my opinion of the policy that's been proposed for amending and looking at the courts and fields being used, I would like to state on record that if you guys are willing to look at them and review them to propose or add an addition for safety, that would be beneficial to all of our children. As we've all seen so much of the drama unfold, there is so many different pieces of safety that we need to protect our children, our families, as well as our coaches. There was an issue in Knoxville in which a referee was harmed by a parent, and I don't ever want to see that happen to a family here in Jonesboro. I also don't want to live with the constant drama on social media going back and forth. So if we could look at the policy and propose that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a recommendation for the approval of the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Sorry.
Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Can we vote, please?
Sorry, Ms. Paul, disruption for my phone.
Oh, it's fine.
Stay after 30 minutes.
Sounds like don't punish me, I didn't do it.
Jack did teach me how to put it on Do Not Disturb.
Well, that's good.
Glad I brought him to that.
Good job, Jack. Evidently you didn't listen.
Well, no, he just told me.
Oh.
Obviously, he wasn't here the last time, but anyway.
May have to leave your cell phone at the door.
I'll have to do better. Yes.
Jack will hold it.
Is that the mic taking up? Who made the motion?
Mr. Fleener.
Okay, here we go.
You got it?
think she's gonna step right at the computer. Motion carries. For our announcements, Mr. Boyd, would you like to
Yes, ma'am.
take care of those?
Yeah, just quickly, I mean, you know, they're all there, just for a reminder. We did attend the Hugh Committee yesterday. It was early because of some construction or some repairs at the historic courthouse. We had one item on the agenda that was approved, and it's on tonight's agenda for your consideration. It's the school nutrition budget amendment. So that's on later in the agenda for your consideration. Just a reminder, Good Friday, and last year the board initiated a Good Friday and a Good Monday, you know, within the calendar. So both Friday of Good Friday and then the Monday after Easter is a holiday for schools and the district office. So schools and district offices are closed that Friday and that Monday. And then just also a reminder on your calendars, keep up, there's a lot of things happening this spring, as you know, and we kick off with the Top 10 banquet, April 29th, 7 p.m. at the Millennium Center. And then there's several events for the next several weeks, celebrating students and teachers. One very important event is graduation. And that's all for now. We can, too, since they're here, and they might want to, if you're willing, as a chair, you can certainly.
If it's okay with the board, I'd like the Lewis group to go ahead because they're way down on the list and they have some traveling to do, so.
Thank you.
Sure, thanks. Just to get started, we don't have a real, we were just here, obviously, a week and a half ago, so not a ton of work has been moving forward, but we are moving forward. Just want to give you an update on that stuff. As far as the boiler building project, that project is now in all of our consultants' hands and moving forward. The deadline for that project would be May the 1st. So we'd like to get that thing turned around quickly in about a month's time and get it to a point where we can get it out on the streets and out for bid pretty quickly. So we're shooting, that's what we told our consultants, and that's what we're shooting for is May 1. And so that work's begun and still moving forward. The securities, the vestibules that we talked about at our last workshop meeting, that has also kind of started to move forward a little bit. And what I mean by that is we took a couple of steps in the right direction. Number one, we've got some meetings set up next week to come up here and visit those schools again and take a look at, based on kind of some of the information that we talked about, to do a run through again real quick, just to look, because things have changed now, just to look at existing conditions again, do that in 2 days. We set that meeting up with Dr. Adams, and so that will be happening next week. We've also let our consultants know that this project is coming. We sent them copies of the work that we did in the workshop so that they can be thinking about the same things. And then we contacted State Fire Marshal as well, and if you may want to talk about that.
Yeah, the only thing
why
about
we did that.
the state fire marshal, so you all may or may not remember how we, had those all in one package, right? I mean, we're going to bid them in one package, but state fire marshal sees those as individual schools, so clearly they had to have their own TFM number, Tennessee Fire Marshal number, and basically they review them individually. So part of our question back, and I don't think he had not responded, as of today, he had not responded back, right? You didn't see a response, right? Mm-hmm. But he, but we asked the question about how he wanted us to resubmit them, because, we resubmitted all the schools. We had 2 schools, obviously the high schools go forward, and are obviously under construction now. So just, just trying to see how they want us to do that, get ahead of that a little bit so that, you know, there's no hiccups in terms of getting them reviewed. I mean, and, you know, and obviously there's a little bit of change from those two, and also trying to find out if, since we paid the review fee, that, you know, even though there's some change, that that you all don't have to repay that review fee. So we're working all those kind of things behind the scenes and trying to just get that to go as smoothly as we can.
And it's better to get out in front of that now and not when we're 2 days away from putting it out.
They like it when you
bid.
communicate early with them, yes.
Yeah, so we went ahead and jumped on that as well. Did you have a question?
Yeah, has the steel come in for the high schools?
Yes,
It's
it's being installed.
being
It's not-
installed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, obviously you remember that was kind of the big hiccup and
Yeah.
delay, but
Right.
it's in there now.
Okay, good.
So,
Thank you.
So my question is, the flooring for David Crockett, do we know who picked that, who approved that, how that worked? Because I'm just gonna say it's not pretty.
okay. And we know that issue, and all I can say right now is we're working on it with Dr. Adams. We were communicating with him. You know, the thing I know as part of that was trying to find a neutral palette that could be used across the various schools, so there's attic stock, and so something, you know, just finding something that works kind of across all schools is not an easy thing to do, right? Because they're all very different. So we're working on it. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
You know, yeah. Do you have anything else to say about that?
No, I mean, you know, we worked through that with Dr. Adams in the beginning and through that process, and so we reconnected with him again today about that, and he's expressed his concerns, and so we put the wheels in motion there to take a look at that and get back to him with maybe some suggestions and see what we can do about it.
Yeah,
It's a little bit early right now to be
This
able
is
to
a
say.
long-term purchase for us,
Sure.
you know, 20, 25 years, and
Yeah.
that, it's,
Hopefully we'll be able to see samples,
yes,
Yeah,
something
Sure.
other than that.
and then I will certainly share with the board, and they can give their opinion.
Yeah, and we'll communicate, you know, and we can communicate on that. You know, this has just sort of been set in motion, sort of to get a remedy, so we'll be communicating obviously with Dr. Adams and Mr. Boyd.
Correct.
We'll communicate, you know, before the next board meeting, right,
Thank
so it won't go that far down.
Thank
down
you.
the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
We know Trizo's not in the budget, but to match it,
That's too bad.
it would look great.
It's very nice,
Yeah.
yes. We understand completely.
Well, pavement would look, I mean, it looks like concrete I mean, you know, it doesn't look good.
We'll resolve that concern.
Sure, no problem. And then the last thing, and we talked about it just briefly, you know, the boiler project, going back to that a little bit, I sort of forgot that. One thing that's hanging out there just a little bit still yet is the gas line. And so, you know, we're trying to get that information as soon as possible to our mechanical engineers, because they'll have to make a decision on what that looks like in the beginning, whether that is gas or whether that is propane. So that's one thing that we're waiting for.
Mr. Moore, at the end of the day today, indicated to me, and we've heard from the gas company, and they're sending us a formal estimate of the cost. Hopefully we'll get that this week.
That'd be great. Any other
Is
questions?
that something that we can ask the county to help pay for?
I don't know.
I mean,
We could.
benefit other households out there just besides us.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of people take advantage of that once they get.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
yeah, no problem.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
All right.
Be safe.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Todd, let Paul drive on the way home and where you rest.
He'll sleep.
Hey, keep a bottle of water.
It's item 12G.
Don't throw it on the road.
If it pleases the board, I'd like to also move the textbook committee up. We have some teachers back there that would probably like to move along home to do things if nobody objects. Okay, textbook committee.
Very
I wanna go to the whole meeting.
What I'd like to do is introduce to you our team members. As you know, it's spring, so many of them are off doing school events and such, but I am gonna, just like with the teachers, read through the names of each school and the representatives of the committee, because they dedicated many hours outside of the school day to this work. They met here in central office with me. We had a virtual meeting, we had an in-person meeting. But then they're the people that organized, collected, received the materials from the publishers at their individual schools. They presented those materials to their teachers. They had meetings, they collected feedback from those teachers, and then they presented that feedback to the group as we come together to make a decision. So they've done a lot of work throughout this process to make sure that we did our diligence, and I've said repeatedly, it was very rewarding to hear their feedback as we come together, because it wasn't just about what was best for teachers, but they really were digging into and looking to see what was best for our students throughout Washington County, throughout the grade bands, and that rigor of instruction was something that just kept rising to the top in every conversation that we had that they facilitated. So if I can introduce our committee, and if they're here, they're gonna stand up. From Asbury, we had Serena Campbell and Matthew Boggs. From Boones Creek, Whitney Howard, Jessica Wilson, and Julian Cutshaw. From Daniel Boone High School, Rebecca Byers, Andrea Carr, and Amy Kelly. From David Crockett High School, David Yates, Lauren Chanley, and Mary Beth Hopkins. From Fall Branch, Christy Payne, Heather Franqua, and Charity Roberts. From Grandview, Heather Dennis, Kelly Casey, Alex Moore. From Gray, we had Christy Tomlinson, Nikki O'Brien, and Cindy Snap. From Jonesboro, Blake Pierce, Sarah Drew, and Jesse Musselman. From Lamar, Amber Davis, Lori Davis, and Heather Oren. From Ridgeview, Hillary Lambert, April White, and Holly Jamerson. From South Central, Heather Hawkins, Lee Ray, and Rick Phillips. From Sulphur Springs, Leslie Doherty, Sarah Asbury, and Michelle Knight. From Westview, we had Keely Bird, Jordan Williamson, Kristen Corrigan, and from University School, we had Heidi Campbell, Lacey York, and Lacey York. So that was our committee, and I do thank them for those that were able to come.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is an action item.
Okay.
I assume that you're certainly in support of the approval.
We are in support of that approval. In your packet, I've given you an overall info sheet on the K-12 adoption itself. I do want to mention that the high school piece, it's in two pieces, because at that high school level, Pearson and Savas, who are joined together from a corporate standpoint, the AP honors and some of the supplemental science courses are still under the Pearson wings. And so that's why you see two different quotes for high school, but it's all part of that Savas Pearson family. But it is a K-12 adoption for Savas, and the quote, the pricing has been included. I was able to share that up yesterday. We did move everything from the Savas publishers over to Tennessee Book Company. Savas has agreed to ship everything to Tennessee Book, and then Tennessee Book will ship to us. That's because that would be in-state shipping cost at that point, which was gonna save us about $60,000 to do it that way. So that's why you see PO costs, or PO for Tennessee Book Company. The Savas, they're gonna send everything to Tennessee Book, and then we're purchasing from Tennessee Book.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Huddleston.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank these teachers that are here for the time that they served on the committee. Another fine example of teachers putting in overtime without thought of remuneration. And thank you for your effort in doing this.
If you would, if it is an action item, then I would ask you to consider taking action.
Yeah. Can I make a motion that we approve the selection from the textbook committee? I don't know how you say that. Savas. Textbook.
Second for you.
PO 4894. Thank you.
Mr. Walters.
So I'm telling you, sorry, I talk fast.
Go back to Mackenzie.
Right.
So this is Miss Mackenzie Gavy, and she's going to do an update for us.
Floor is hers.
Okay, so I am just gonna go over a few things that happened at South Central this year and some of the new programs that they've implemented. So to start off, they started off their year with a new motto, and it is 100%, nothing less, always more, and game on. And this is to reflect their commitment to their ongoing improvement and to create an environment where the students are excited and motivated about learning. And so they started off the year by giving 100% to their community. Obviously, all of Washington County was a little thrown off by the flooding in September. So while the schools were closed, South Central opened its doors to the community, and they provided shelter to those who had been displaced from their homes. And they provided other necessities like food and household items and clothing. So some of their more recent and academic endeavors this year has been the Read Across America Week, which a lot of Washington County schools participated in. And so their way of participating in this was they had a dress-up week. So each day was a different theme related to popular Dr. Seuss books, and then they had also had David Crockett Key Club members read to their K through 3rd graders over Zoom. Even though we weren't able to go in person, there was still a little bit of interaction there. And so another great thing that they've pushed in their literacy department this year is their 4th and 5th grade CTE students actually work together to write a book about their school titled South Central Strong. And so this allowed the students to express their own perspectives about their school, and it was a great way for them to work on their writing skills. And then on April 11th, they actually opened it up to the community, and they had a signing with the students, and so that was a great way, and I think that that was a great introduction for students into writing. And so another thing that they have participated in this year is the Tea and Leaps program. So that provides schools with funding for extra after-school activities and projects to get students involved with. Most recently, they've taken advantage by this by doing a play production, and that was The Claw. And you guys probably saw that on the district website, but I'm gonna go in a little more in depth. So they recently had their performance of The Claw, and it was about the life inside a 90s claw machine. But the importance was it explored themes of friendship and growing up through the adventures of a toy machine. And the students can participate in many different ways, such as acting, or they could also do the stage management or design. So there was a lot of different ways behind the scenes. And so it was a great way for them to all come together and produce something themselves. And so whenever I was talking to Mr. McKinney about what he wanted for me to include from his perspective, one of the two things that he included was the recognition of Chase Perry and John Allen Martin tonight, which I think is very important because not only does it go back to their school motto, and they're not just giving 100% in their education, but also showing that they're upstanding citizens in their community. So it's showing how good they're pushing their students in the classroom, but also creating students with good character. And so for their post-secondary preparations for their middle schoolers, recently they went to Northeast State Community College, and that kind of gave them a look into what path they might want to take in high school, whether that's CTE or dual enrollment, to prepare them for their future in college, if that is at Northeast State or another university. So they went and they saw a few different career options and how to find that path. And then some other events that had happened over the year is they had a coffee house poetry. So that was a night where the students could perform their own poetry that they had written for their peers. And so it was a great way to not only work on their writing skills, but also their public speaking. And they had a scholastic book fair in March, and then they also had one in November, so that kind of got students involved in reading. And then obviously the 6th through 8th grade middle school tours, and some upcoming dates is the May 22nd K through 8th awards night, and then that same night on May 22nd is 8th grade promotion. And so thank you guys for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or if Mr. McKinney has anything he would like to add to that.
Thank you for presenting.
Are you selling copies of the book?
They are, and if you're interested, book signing's coming up.
And should be a pretty big night. The Herald Tribune has already reached out. They want to do a pre-story for the book signing. So hopefully that'll be out Wednesday before the 11th.
Is there any possibility of publication?
So it is published and it was actually featured in the Tennessee Literacy magazine across the state, in the same magazine that they do like Dolly Parton, read across Tennessee books and stuff. So
Nice.
it's got some good legs on it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything anybody needs to discuss under any questions about the field trips or anything going on there?
They're just for board awareness, public record, and community awareness.
Is there a recommendation of the consent agenda?
I make that motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Can we vote, please? Thank you. So you should have a copy of the resolution of the Washington County Board of Education in front of you. And that is for the teacher bonuses under the Educational Freedom Act. Is there a recommendation for a resolution?
I'd like to move that we adopt it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Edelson?
I thought long and hard about whether to speak to this, as I've spoken out on this before, realizing this is probably the last time that it's going to be talked about for a while. To say 2 months ago that this board signed a resolution opposing this. Fortunately, the legislature in its divine wisdom has now voted to give over $7,000 to parents under the guise of parental choice. They're going to give millions of dollars to this program while the funding of education, public education, is in the lower 25th percentile of 50 states. Tennessee is also in the lower 25th percentile in teacher salary. Now, the reality is that voucher eligibility does not mean voucher access. Parents can only spend their voucher at schools that will accept their children. Private schools can find many ways to turn voucher-holding kids and their families away. That's because when it comes to vouchers, it's not actually about what parents choose. Vouchers are the school's choice, not parent choice. Now, I could go on and list many other reasons why this educational freedom scholarship program, as it's called, is bad for Tennessee, but we've got other things to do tonight. And I guess unfortunately the Tennessee citizens will just have to experience the damage that I feel it will do over the coming years. Just ask the citizens in Arizona, Ohio, and Wisconsin about the huge amounts of money that voucher plans are costing their state. I'd like to commend Representative Rebecca Alexander for supporting our school board in opposing the private school voucher bill, but more importantly, for supporting the majority of the voters she represents who told her to vote no. Now, Superintendent Boyd, on behalf of the board, asked the teachers if we should accept the money. And they responded, 369 in number, with 87% of them in support of accepting, and 13% saying not to accept it, even though it doesn't change the outcome of the voucher plan. They still felt that strong. A couple of the comments of which teachers made without signing their name, I would like to read. The first one, I'd love to have the bonus considering the cost of living has skyrocketed, but I do not agree with the bill and feel that it will be detrimental to our public schools. Offering the bonus with the bill is insulting to me as a public school teacher. Our public schools will suffer private schools will prosper and kids from low economic background or disabilities will be at a disadvantage. And the second one, it is shameful that the state makes our local board and teachers jump through a hoop just to receive any form of compensation. I do not blame the school board or any teacher for wanting to accept the bonus while holding their noses to this voucher scam. And the third one, a rather short one, very cheap offer for my soul. As far as the bonus goes, I can only say that the teachers deserve it and much more. Thank you for listening, and I urge you to support the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anybody else?
I tend to vote in favor of this resolution to give the $2,000, but I am clearly, and I don't think I will ever change my mind that the so-called Education Freedom Act of 2025 is bad for public schools. It's bad for East Tennessee, and I hate that it passed.
I fully agree with you. All right, if nobody else has anything, can we vote, please?
Motion carried.
Thank you. The dietary budget amendment, if you all haven't, it's BOE, if you haven't got a chance to look at it. And the changes, my understanding is from when we're feeding everybody to free, correct? Do you have any put in there?
Yes, you know, the increased cost as well. I mean, with feeding everyone and not getting the level of reimbursement, you know, to address the expense. The increased demand, more food product costs are increasing and have increased. So the cost of operation is just increasing, so just to address those things. Mr. Hill, any other comment?
Yeah, the main drivers is the food costs may continue to rise based on what's going on. We'll have to wait and see on that. But then the demand for the product is increasing too, because we are feeding more. Again, we're not getting the level of reimbursement, so that's why we need to amend this budget to be more reflective of what the actual income is, at least through 8 months of data. We'll talk more about how we handle it going on when we get into budgets for next year. But that's why this amendment's necessary right now. And I've got the layout very similar to what you're used to. If you pull the document up, you've got the current budget, you've got changes, and then the second column is your budget amendment that we're asking you to approve, so we go to commission.
Mr. Flynn?
Make a motion, we approve the budget amendment number 1 for FY 25 for the dietary fund.
Second.
Any discussion, Mr. Riddle?
The last thing I probably need to add, I'm sorry, is it does take the estimated deficit, budgeted deficit from 1.273 million up to an estimated 1.782. We'll see where it falls over the next 3 or 4 months.
Mr. Boyd, you may be doing this, but if not, could you kind of go ahead and start passing this information along to the HUE committee of the costs that are involved in feeding all the children?
I did make that, you know, specific statement to them at the meeting Wednesday.
Thank you.
And I will make sure they have the numbers in front of them.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is that gonna be on the budget?
Well, right now, you know, Mr. Hell has suggested we include, you know, based on the reality of, especially the board's policy around, you know, once the school nutrition budget gets at or below $750,000 fund balance, the board is to maintain that $750,000. So just as a preview, $1 million is in there to support the school nutrition program.
The reason it's not 1 point higher than that is I do suspect we'll still come in above the 750 by June 30th. We'll go see 1 million to 3 probably is somewhere in that range is where I think the dietary balance will be at June 30th. That's why it's not higher than $1 million. If we leave it as it is, I mean, it probably FY 27's budget, you're gonna fund the whole deficit for each year.
But we have to turn our budget in May 1st. Don't we need to have a figure in that?
We do, we have $1 million in there.
Okay.
I feel comfortable with 1 million right now based on the data. Obviously, it's a little fluid, so if worst case scenario, we'll amend it
Projected.
next year.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Gordon Food Service. It is a requisition. Yes, Mr.
Make a motion, we approve requisition 143025031 $73,000.
Mr. Walters. Any discussion? Let me vote, please. All approved. You should have, budget at your space there.
Yes, it's a 10, 11 page document. I just want to make sure, you know, the purpose of tonight is to give you the overview. And really what I'll be walking through is a summary of the budget, but I also want to make sure everybody's, you know, identifies the areas where some of these expenditures and the revenues are on this budget worksheet. This is draft 1. It would be wonderful if we walked in and we felt like draft 1 was the one, but we know the process will probably require us to do a few more drafts. This is based on the input we've received from schools and departments, board members, and just also previous discussions in past years about, you know, continuing to make progress in next steps. So all of these expenses, and, you know, and needs we've tried to capture into this current budget and address, as we just mentioned, some really known challenges like the food service expenses that we're managing. So I'll just walk through at any point. Please tell me to stop, ask questions, repeat something if I don't make sense, and then I'll also pull in Mr. Hale. So Mr. Hale, you jump in at any time, especially if you think I'm saying something that might not be accurate. So make sure I get the right mouse. I always start, and I will when I present to the county commission. They may not appreciate it, but I think it's always important to start with our budget priorities. You know, there's 4 things that are our pillars that we kind of try to attach ourselves to. You know, our students, our people, the partners in our community, and then when our board and our leaders and our teachers and all of our team makes decisions, we want to be responsible stewards of the resources that the community, you know, trusts us with. So just some key factors that, you know, just to highlight that's embedded in the budget and kind of the driving conversations and decisions. You know, continue to increase salaries, especially to meet the minimum $50,000 a year for entry level or starting salary for teachers. That is the minimum. That's the basement, and that is a requirement based on you know, the state of Tennessee by fiscal year 27, which is actually, you know, coming upon us. It'll be the 26-27 school year. Hopefully we'll make the necessary progress this year, and then we will be in a position to meet that minimum, but we also will need to continue conversations about the fact that minimum is certainly not sufficient. You know, and at the same time, we want to continue with all the additional costs, you know, the cost of living as it continues to rise, and we're all, you know, anticipating some pain points with the economy, but we want to try the best we can to increase salaries and wages for our other staff, you know, in addition to our teachers. We annually have healthcare increases. We're predicting what's in the budget that you'll see is a 5% estimated increase in healthcare costs, which, you know, in the number of employees we have, that's a significant number. This is still in there. I left this in there, but I want to make a point. This actually is something we're not going to include in the budget. With the conversation that I've had with the board around the outcome-based funds, instead of increasing that amount per student, we would like to continue to hold it at $22 as we did in the past few budgets, or the last year's budget, we raised it to 22, and then leverage those outcome-based funds to get those to the schools so they can make school-based decisions on those revenues. So actually that small increase is not included in the budget. Continue to, you know, maintain our classroom and school-wide support for both our instruction, our teachers, our students in the process, as well as the other needs that our students and staff have with their social, emotional, mental health needs. And then finally, you haven't voted on the actual purchase, you voted on the adoption as recommended by the Science Textbook Adoption Committee. Maintaining, you know, high quality instructional materials accessible to all students in all classrooms across the district in the content areas. Next year's adoption cycle is social studies, so this budget's actually preparing for the social studies adoption in the next school year. Last year's budget and the current budget we're in, we prepared for this purchase of the science materials. So just continuing to support and make sure that the resources are in our classrooms where they need to be. Just to highlight, you know, some of the big expenditures, trying to capture some of the big dollars that are in this budget worksheet. The minimum increase, assuming the minimum number to make, you know, to realistically meet our goal of 27, to be at that minimum $50,000 for our teachers, including all of just the step increases and other costs associated, is $2.355 million. That's the minimum, without even giving anything in addition to that to our teachers. Our classified staff, that's just the annual step increase that's built into the current approved wage schedule. Management, when we talk about management, it's our supervisors, whether they're in a non-certified area like maintenance, you know, or school nutrition, the non-instructional departments, or our certified staff that's in over, you know, the instructional programs and supports. That just moving from one year to the next is $63,000. And then there's the health care increase that I mentioned. That's the actual dollar figure estimated by Mr. Hell based on our current levels of policies and employees. It's almost $500 million just for the increase. Now, I will point out, now help me correct me, that's the total cost, but actually it's half of that because it doesn't take effect until January, correct? You know, the healthcare year is January to December. So we budget for the whole cost, but actually the actual cost from January to the end of the fiscal year in June will be half of that. Now the next, talking about one of those drivers, one of those key considerations is improving our salaries for our teachers and all employees. What's proposed here is you know, almost $3.7 million of fixed costs. And actually, I think that number needs to be adjusted because we made some adjustments this afternoon. It's a little more than that, I believe. But so what we've proposed is that 2,095 flat that we have built in for the, you know, the minimum that we need. And I asked Mr. Hell to look at the cost, an additional 1% bump on that. And that total cost is 2.756,678, as you can see. For our hourly wage employees, last year we were able to do a $1 per hour increase across all categories of classified staff. Proposing to do that again. That will raise our minimum wage in our school system to be a little bit over $15 an hour.
I'm pretty proud of that. From where we stood when I first started, it was under $10.
Yeah,
That's
the
amazing.
board has made a lot of strides in all areas, in that one in particular. You see the costs associated with that, $660,000. In addition, our bus drivers are paid a little differently, they're paid by routes, but Mr. Hell's kind of calculated what is an equivalent to a $1 per hour increase for the bus drivers. And on the daily route, wage, it's $7.50 per day on the routes. And that's a little over $100,000 cost. And then these two are adjustments. We originally had discussed a percentage increase for the non-certified and certified. So we talked about a 1%, a 2%, 3% possibly. Last year it was a 5% last year, I believe. It ended up being a 5% last year. But 1%, so on our lower end scale of our supervisors is just under $700. So looking across the scale, instead of doing a percentage, I'm proposing a $2,000 flat, which approximately equals 2% across the board. And it's a flat amount. It certainly benefits the lower end more than the upper end, but it's across the board and it's a flat increase across the board. As proposed, it's $125,000 total cost on that. Some of the non-personnel cost increases, I include this slide each year. Electricity is increasing. Mr. Hell's calculations, actually he's trying to base it on actual as much as we can expenses, and this is prior 12 months, so we're looking at $150,000 over that. Sewage increase, as you can see. University school or revenue sharing with the school, there's an increase. Last year was actually twice that almost. We still don't know about our liability insurance. We're bidding that out. So we don't exactly know what that will look like as far as additional cost, if any. Trustee commission is based on the revenues that we get. And then of course you see our natural gas, our diesel fuel, again, just like last year, was a decrease. We decreased the expense. And then I included in this particular summary, the school nutrition financial support based on the board's commitment and policy, basically, of that $750,000 minimum fund balance for the 143 fund is $1 million. So that's all captured in those expenses. Yes, sir.
The propane, we used to lock that price in June or July. Are we still doing that? Because we supposed to bid, the way I understand it, you can go and buy propane and lock it in your price for your house and stuff, and we did do that. And I don't know if we're still doing it or not, but.
I think we did last year, but it can still go up.
No, it can't go up till we go out of what we project we use, the way I understand it. That's the way it was.
It followed the same cycle, that was a June bid that we did.
Okay, well, I just wanna make sure we're still bidding it out, that way we got, whatever we project we're gonna need, so many gallons, then we need to make sure we've got enough.
So just trying to remind everyone, our funding model, the TISA funding model, Tennessee Improved Student Achievement funding formula, is a student-based funding formula, has a component from the state, the local minimum requirement, and that involves, in our case, our revenue primarily at the local level is local option sales tax and property tax. I will just point out too, most of the state revenue that we get, well, if not all, but it may not be 100%, is sales tax revenue, state sales tax revenue. So you see just the main revenue sources locally we have asked in conversation with the finance director, Mr. Meredith. Mr. Hell has had conversations. We have increased our local option sales tax revenue in this budget from 20 million in this current budget year to 21 million based on trends, multi-year trends of where it is. And, you know, we feel comfortable asking the commission to raise that to 21 million. And right now, our property tax portion, that's what we've been told is the number that we should use. And I left blank the other local taxes and fees. There's a variety of other ones. They essentially get the county up to that minimum 35 million to meet their maintenance of effort.
So I'd probably better say on the sales tax, that's what, from our conversation, that's where we came in. Obviously, the commission has to approve it, but he felt comfortable.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
But the property tax, he's supposed to give me those final numbers.
Okay.
That was based on prior 12 actual, that
Sure.
could change a bit.
It probably, even if it changes, it'd be a very small number.
I would think no more than a couple $100,000
Yeah.
either way, you know, it shouldn't be significant.
Yeah, yeah. If we track probably other than the reevaluation years, the sales tax growth is generally around 1 to 2% at most. 1% is probably a good estimate.
Can we request the commission give us more percentage of the local option sales tax? Can we petition that?
Well, we can, and it would be their choice. I mean, they voted to reduce it from 100% to 50%. Be it in their decision of providing funds, they always have that option to relook at the local option sales tax.
Well, I've heard baby steps and I've heard you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So, yeah, they might take it away all at once, but each year, if we.
Well, and I think I'd just be point out without, you know, I know that we've reached a point where people have said we don't want to talk about that anymore.
Right.
But if we ask for additional revenue to help cover our gap, sure, they have some decisions they can make.
Right.
And it's including some of the local option sales.
Well, I just remember one of them said that they would look at it annually, so it's always up for discussion.
It should be, yes, sir, and I believe that's what's been said. Now, will there be any action on that? Time will tell, but, you know, but you're exactly right, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And just run through, not to get too deep in the weeds, but one thing to point out, the increase in the governor's budget, which essentially, you know, is moving forward. The TISA base fund is $7,295 per student. And that's an increase from the previous year, which was $7,075. Unfortunately, that really hasn't generated a lot of extra revenue for us because our student enrollment is just a little bit lower than last year, so it's not a huge increase for us. And in another piece, I just want to point this out. I don't really have it highlighted, but the board needs to hear this. Weighted funds it includes all of our different categories of students, special population students, unique learners as they're called, and also our economically disadvantaged percentage. And our numbers keep going down. So when those percentages go down, the amount generated through these weighted funds goes down. And ours actually, if the state didn't step in for districts like ours and held us harmless, basically froze us from previous years. So we get the same amount for economically disadvantaged students that we got last year, but our number of students identified are several hundred. So that, if they didn't hold us harmless, we would have a significant decrease in funding based on that formula. Significant being several $100,000. Direct funds that do not require a match from the local, the first two do. So basically it's 70% state, 30% local sharing. But when you get to direct funds, that's all state funds that come straight to us based on certain criteria and certain groups. And then finally, outcome-based funds. These are not included in the budget because we do not get these funds until mid-year next year. It's based on this spring's student performance. And some other factors, but we do not get those funds until mid-year. And that's why I've asked the board to consider, since it's generated by the school specifically, as far as the outcomes of the students, I would like us this year to begin the practice of taking those funds and providing and putting it back into the schools directly. It's not something that will be in our budget. but we certainly can leverage those funds for schools to address specific needs based on the funds that the students at their school generate based on the outcomes that they have on an assessment. You know, it's the whole idea behind the outcomes fund is to basically I recognize and quote reward those positive outcomes made by students and teachers at each school. So finally, it's just a big highlight in the breakdown. That's the numbers. You can see the different components based on the ADM right now as of March 15th. We have a rolling average every month. The data is captured, and our average as of March 15th is $7,852. And 52 students, 0.88, whatever 0.88 students are, but you know, it is an average. No rounding there. You can see the direct funds, as I mentioned, that's no local match. So that's all state funds based on, I've listed some of the categories. You can see literacy, the supports for fourth grade, the tutoring throughout the year, CTE, and then we get some support for the ACT and post-secondary testing. And just as a reminder, the identified maintenance of effort that the state has for Washington County is a little over 35 million, almost 36 million. Included this slide, I don't know if Mr. Hale wants to, this is the same slide from fund balance, if Mr. Hale wants to make any comments about end of the year projections and fund balance, certainly.
Certainly Joe's next meeting, I'll have that. I hope to have it by tomorrow. I wasn't able to get that quite today. I can give you a guess, but I'd really like to dial it in as tight as I could before I make a prediction there.
Yeah.
I haven't got March's revenue data yet, so I'd like to see that. At least get 9 months of revenue data in it, then I'll be able to get closer and closer as we get to that June 30th date.
The key takeaway there is these bottom numbers, and I know they're hard to see on this slide. I don't know that I can blow this up without going out of the presentation. But Mr. Hale has listed, operationally, we have to have cash flow, especially in June. And he has expressed a great concern is if we don't have a certain amount of reserves accessible to us, especially with big payrolls go out in June, because that's paying July and August, then we certainly will have some problems. And he suggests at minimum a 2 months expenses, and really a good safe place to be, and it would be 3 months, but 2 months is what I'm hearing from Mr. Hale is his comfort zone.
Right, because in the month of June last year, our expenses was nearly $16 million. So obviously, I don't want to go below that. Now, how the revenue works and fund balance, it builds, because we'll get higher property taxes, there, December, February, so the fund balance will get higher in March, April, and we'll have some cushion, but it would be wise not to go below minimum what our June expenses are, and as the budget builds, that amount will build too as we go forward. So in a perfect world, I'd love 3 months, but right now that's 2 months. Now, if we have less capital expenditures going out in June than we had last year, maybe a little less this year, but just kind of keep that in mind as we budget deficits and then look at what actually comes in. We'll look at actual compared to budget. I probably talked too much, so sorry.
If we could, thought you did a great job and we had a joint meeting with the commission, we could continue to impress upon him how the fund balance works, that it's not just what it is.
Right.
In June, May, if we could continue to educate them on how that thing works and how fluid it is.
Yes.
That would be very beneficial in the budget process.
Definitely will be a specific focus when we have that conversation with them. Thank you. Yes, as a reminder, because there was many of our commissioners at our joint meeting, 11, So we'll just continue that.
I thought they got a better understanding of how that works, instead of just, here it is on this date when it's big, you know?
Yes.
You know, to see how fluid it is, the ups and downs of it, so.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So to capture all of those, just the summary items with the expenses and the revenues, and the current reality in draft one budget as it stands with the things that I've indicated are included. We have a gap between revenue and expenditures of $7.2 million. We do not have the luxury of saying, well, maybe we should just cover the fund balance. I mean, we don't have that luxury. So it would be nice if we did, but we didn't. So we have some work to do. But that's the gap that we have currently between revenue projected, and that's pretty close. I believe what we're projecting is what it's gonna be, unless we get additional support. And then the planned expenditures, right now, that's as listed, that's what it is. And just to kind of highlight, and these are pretty repetitive, same things that we've discussed, you know, the increased costs, improving salaries, wages, and supplements. I will say I've shared with you kind of suggestions on how to improve our coaching supplements, and make them also more of a structured and systematic. But those additional costs are not included in the proposed budget currently. You know, fund balance conversations, continuing to utilize that as a tool, but it's a limited tool that we're at a point where we have, you know, fewer and fewer options to use that tool, that fund balance tool, especially for operational dollars. And we also know in addition to operational budget, which is what this is, we have a lot of capital needs. We certainly are going to continue to try to work with the commission and the educational capital fund and the long range planning, but we also know there are probably capital projects needs that go well beyond what that resource provides. And then the big one is that's glaring right now is the school nutrition, the continued depletion of the school nutrition fund balance because of increased cost and because of the increased demand. And then the last one, there's a lot of discussion nationally, of course, with all the changes that have happened. The idea is that the states will then, you know, manage all of it, which the reality is the state managed most of it anyway, with a lot of, you know, strings attached, of course, but the change, I don't think is gonna be very noticeable on how it operates. Now, there could be decisions made that money might not flow the way it did, and that'll cause us to really have to look at how we utilize our federal dollars, and they are supplemental funds. They're not in, you know, number one, they can't be, you know, they can't be the funds. They can't supplant what the local and state is responsible for providing. So they are supplemental, but they're very important supplemental funds for us, especially with our populations in many of our schools. So that's a concern, how we offset any loss of those federal dollars that we could see. And right now, you know, I do ask if, as you look through the budget, if there's any ways you might want us to format this differently. I'm told that you know, this is a Brad Hell format as far as the feedback Brad's received even before me is that there's folks at the commission level like Brad's format. So I appreciate it very much. I mean, it's just simple to read. It's very straightforward. You can see all the changes. You can see the previous amount, you know, previous budget. And you can see, you know, what's proposed in the new budget as far as changes in each of the line items.
Sir, this is round one. Are we going to have a call meeting this month to review the next round?
I would ask, you know, if anything, the board to consider We do have our workshop scheduled, but I think at least one meeting in between that, if the board would consider that scheduling meeting. And the reason it might need to be a called meeting, a special call, is in the event that the board needs to take action that night.
I'd like to ask that we put another $500,000 in the dietary fund from the commission, or ask for another $500,000, because with the increased cost, the increased usage, and them being all about, wanna help with that. I know we're saying $1 million transfer to our fund over the dietary fund will get us by this year or next year, we think. But I think if they said they would support that, we've never asked them for a penny to support it, and it keeps draining that account.
Are we projecting the dietary fund to continue through next year if we continue to feed all kids?
Yeah, if we continue with the community eligibility program, the free breakfast, lunch for all students, that's one of the, that's a big part of the depletion, having to use so much fund balance in the school nutrition. But the other part is the reality of increased cost. It would not be depleting so fast if we were not participating in the community eligibility program.
So, question to be sure I understand, well, the summary page was a yellow on the fund balance, as I understand. To make ends meet this budget year, looks like we're gonna use about 5.8 out of the fund balance. And as proposed for next year, if this draft, if we didn't get any additional revenue, we'd be looking to use 7.1 out of fund balance.
That is a projection.
It's projection, and right now you're not sure what end of year fund balance will be, and we gotta juggle the keeping at least 2 months, maybe 3.
I think 2 could be a kind of minimum going forward, because now, again, if we have less capital expense this June, maybe it'll be 15 million this year, but as salaries continue to rise, it makes that harder. So when you look at, let me go to that page, you look at that there. So there was 2 things for last year's budget. There was a 5.8, that the stadiums was an additional 5, but the stadiums don't come this year. So you're correct in saying the current budget in effect, not including the stadium expense, was projected at 5.816 to go into the fund balance. We don't know if that'll happen yet or how much of that will happen. When I get the revenue report from the trustee for March, which should be within the next week, I'll be able to dial it in a little higher to see what I believe our estimated fund balance is. By the next budget meeting, I'll definitely have as tight of a projection on that as I can at this time. It still will be fluid, of course, because there's a lot that happens.
So at that point, we would talk about, as a board, comfort level on what we pull out of there, and then how much will be out of balance.
Right. It's just right, wrong, good, bad. I've had a practice of, especially at this point in the budget process, of presenting it as a gap. Because, it's the deficit. I don't use the word deficit because, number one, the budget hadn't been approved yet. Number two, it shows the gap, and it shows that we either need more revenue, or we're gonna have to do major cuts, or somewhere in between. So it's just the gap we have to close to balance our budget. And $7 million is a long way off.
Can we, this is along the same lines, can we just highlight for them the recurring amounts we're paying to get teacher salaries up? Because it's not just 2 million, it was 5 million recurring, plus 2 million, plus 2 million.
Yeah.
So that's
a good point.
That's
we
9
actually
million.
highlight
Even going back to 3 years initially,
Yes.
did like a $5 million, which is recurring,
Yeah.
plus 2 million,
Yeah.
plus 2 million. So
That's
you
a
got
good, that would be a
9.
good progression to show.
I think that would be an eye opener because it's not just 2 million, it's 9 million.
Yeah. And, you know, sadly, and of course, you know, you don't overemphasize comparison to your neighbors. But sadly, at that point, when the board made that decision a few years ago, it propelled us ahead of some of our neighbors and their teacher salaries. But now, you know, when we're close neighbors and very similar to us, you know, they surpassed us last year, Sullivan County. You know, our starting salary right now in this year's budget, the 0-year entry-level teacher is $45,810, and Sullivan County already got theirs up to $50. So, of course, Johnson City's way beyond that. They're always going to be $10,000 to $15,000 more than us with additional revenue that they have access to.
And, you know, and I think it's a much needed thing, and it is, but the reality of it is it's breaking us.
Yes. We're trying not just to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, but we're trying to meet a state requirement.
Right.
And number two, we are trying to make sure that we provide the best wage possible, not just for our teachers, but for all of our employees.
But I think we need to definitely, as you can, highlight that as a progression, and then as our finances are going down, is really because of it. And I just think it's an eye opener if you add that in there. Because over time, you know, that's what's gonna get us. I knew that years ago when I looked at it. Yeah, and it's next couple of years, it's really gonna show.
Yeah. Well, and not to belabor a point, but at the time the board made that decision, we had a different tool as far as revenue, as far as the sales tax. We had access to more sales tax growth that we couldn't budget, but it was building up your budget, the board's fund balance, and we just don't have access to that anymore. So it has changed. We could have managed that growth with the growth of the sales tax, but we don't have that tool anymore.
That's what upsets me, because they cut us 50%. Well, that was 4 million from both schools roughly.
Yeah, it was a little over 4 million between
two school systems. And then they go out and they raise taxes 30 cents. And that brings in about 16 million. So they've actually, this budget year, they should have 20 million extra dollars of new money. This coming year, right? Am I looking at it wrong?
They did put some money in some different barrels.
I think they were filling some of their own holes.
But it was new money.
County, right.
It is new money.
So they probably committed some of that money. But it is additional revenue that they have. And they've strengthened their toolbox as far as the county government. And our toolbox has kind of got limited.
Empty.
Hopefully they can see fit to give us a little assistance this year, being that.
That'll be our goal. Yeah, what can they do to help us close it? In lieu of us having to completely just slash everything.
I mean, if they help us, then that means they have to help Johnson City.
Yes.
Now, if they go back and to 100% of the sales tax back to us,
Still,
they would give half of it to Johnson City and the other half to us. Is that something that we could?
Essentially half.
Is that something that would, which I know it would help us, but would it?
Well, I mean, if you assume that the growth stays 2 million-ish, which probably is realistic, you know, that'd be 2 million. But
2 million.
Obviously, looking at a $7.2 million current difference between revenue and expenditure, and 2 million makes a dent, but it doesn't address the whole need.
Can you send us a salary schedule current one and the projected one to see the difference?
Yeah,
please?
generally we don't create it until the board finalizes, but we can do that. I can create that. I did that when we did the major I compared, by year or what it would look like versus current reality, and we can create that for the board to share it with you.
But normally that would be something that might go back and forth, but I mean, we really just have to stay on the schedule.
Well, what we have budgeted, I can basically side by side show you this is what the current, salaries are, and this is with the proposed budgeted increases, and that's what the salary scale would look like. Yes.
And then I've got to ask, marriage license, $1,700.
That's just one of those local fees that we get a portion of. It's obviously not a big business as a county.
So
People would rather spend that $20,000 in some private organization. But that's Barry's license. I don't think it includes like if they get donations for actually marrying people.
So it's not a benefit for encourage marriages then to get our revenue increased?
No, it could encourage, families.
There you go.
And children in our schools.
Mr. Boyd, on the fund balance, just general here, if we don't consider the TSA, outcomes that we got for the one-time final ESSER, if we don't consider that, we're running about 5 million back of where we were last year through February. That's a loose number, but if you want me to put a general number out there, right now, that's what I would say. Well, we will allocate those funds, so it's not like.
Right. But, the intent there is whether, with the outcome-based funds that I've talked about, we'll encourage schools, those are one-time funds to address needs. And then the other funds we have available too, we talked about, again, one-time funds to address needs, not recurring. If you have any questions, appreciate the guidance, especially as prepared to engage with the commission. I'm willing to adjust in any way that we think would be beneficial.
Do we need to go ahead and plan a call meeting or?
Yeah, I was.
Later?
Do that right at the end, so we can all look at our calendars.
We'll do it at the end. I think you're gonna have a discussion about start times too, so maybe we can settle up there.
Pop all that up. So
One other
let's,
thing I want to say, because it ties in with the budget, I may be getting ahead here, so I apologize, but we do have 3 grants under discussions that require for contribution.
They're the next item.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that, we want to throw that in somehow with the budget.
are these are not in the budget?
No, these that are on the agenda tonight are not in the budget, it would be new money.
And then again, the reminder is this is awareness. We would have the opportunity to refuse the grants if we were to get the grants.
So let's turn to those matching grant approvals. The first one is the school-based mental health services grant. That gives us 2 interventions. Do we have those 2 interventions now, or would they be added?
It would be additional.
Mr. Clayton.
Make a motion, we approve the school-based mental health services grant for the matching funds of $50,000 per year for 5 years.
Second. Question,
There's discussion, yes.
tier 2 students, how are we defining that?
That was probably referencing in our, the behavior side of the 3-tiered intervention. So tier 2 are the ones that require not so much very restrictive environments, but the supports, the counseling and the regular supports of behavior specialists.
Not necessarily for special ed kids, or it could include those?
Tier 2, likely not. They would be on their way if they got it, more severe or their behavior couldn't be corrected, or there was another reason for the behavior, then it would not, this would not necessarily be students being served with special education.
Now, these would be people that could then work with the teacher and helping them work with the students, working with the principal.
Yes, they both work with students and then make sure the environment and supporting the teacher to maintain that environment.
I think that's probably the biggest call that I've heard from teachers, is those kids that kind of are in between, they're not qualifying for special ed. They need help, sending them down to the principal and having to deal with suspension or in-school suspension, and it's a back and forth, and teachers are kind of at a point where they don't want to refer them to the office again because of, but then you've got the continual disturbance, so I overwhelmingly support this.
Yes, but unfortunately it's a need, but it is. Definitely.
Any more discussion? Can we vote, please? Electric school bus grant. So.
Same issue, this would replace in our scheduled purchases. For example, a typical bus, diesel propane is right now about 150,000, but it could require some additional. So our match actually could be using the money that we identified to buy a propane or diesel, and then there would be a gap, probably we would require local match to cover that additional amount. But once again, if you receive the grant, the board will have an opportunity to refuse if you choose to do so.
Mr. Flynn.
Make a motion, we approve the electric school bus grant.
Second.
Mr. Riddle, second.
Now, can we
Any
discuss?
discussion?
Can we discuss? Can we use that money laying right there on the table?
Oh, yeah, I mean, these funds are at the discretion of the
I mean,
board.
once we see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, if this isn't designated, it would simplicity say be going to fund balance, and then the board can identify.
I just don't wanna pay more than our regular school bus. I mean, that's.
Sure. Well, I think
we
that's
give it
part of
all
the grant. And then
Right,
matching
because we can
responsibility.
just say no, but I just don't wanna pay more than.
But absolutely, these kind of donations just go in the revenue side, and we have to decide where it goes.
Keith was gonna match it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any more discussion?
My name is Keith Urban, poor dairy farmer, not Rich Singer. So we're just voting on whether we're gonna
Proceed with.
You acknowledge that there will be a match if you accept the grant, if we were to
Okay.
receive the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Vote, please.
Question, if I may, going back to, well, all of them, as far as the school-based mental health services grant, who are we applying to for that grant?
Let's see, I have to, Dr. Wolf is.
Is that state money, is that a
Here.
private enterprise, or?
I want to say it's probably, for some reason the document's not coming up with our regional provider, Frontier Health. This is actually the bus.
Have we ever asked for this before?
Yeah, we've had these similar grants. It was with Frontier Health.
What do you think our odds are?
Well, I mean, I hope they're very good.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's becoming more competitive because every district has an increased need.
When would we hear? Do we know?
I don't know. And again, Dr. Wolf would be the person to ask. I can get you the answer on that
Okay.
in the greater detail.
Any more discussion? Community-oriented, policing services, so that's for Fitz and Mr. Flynn.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the community-oriented policing services grant.
I second.
It's on a roll. Any discussion? Can we vote, please?
Eddie Zucker.
Already done that. Okay, we've already done textbooks, so let's go to, approve purchase order.
For the textbook purchase.
Where did it, Rob?
No,
You approved the adoption and the recommendation of the adopted materials, but the item for purchase is next.
so.
No, his motion was for purchase order 4894, which was for that.
Oh, I thought you read the,
He did, but his motion
you did.
was for PO 4894 with.
Yeah.
As long as we have, as
Chad
Yes.
long as we have board
ordered it to
approval.
me.
No, he
We will
bids was on it. Yeah, I don't wanna hold him back.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
Good job, Ben.
thank you.
Excellent.
All right, purchase order 4900 for epoxy floor installation for the CT room at Gray Elementary.
This is utilizing their available ISM grant funds.
Mr. Fleener,
Make a motion, we approve purchase order 4900
Group them.
and 4899 and 4898. Please.
Stroll that up there where we can see it.
I second that.
Motion. Two of them's ISM.
These are all ISM. Item 12H1, H2, H3, ISM grants.
One thing I'll point out is when you see the number 002 at the end of the expense line, that's what I've tagged as ISM. So just so you know that. Very final number.
All three of these purchases are utilizing grant funds.
any discussion? Can we vote, please? Policy 3.208. So as we're looking at our community use facilities policy, I think we need to tighten up a little bit on some of our uses. That's just me personally. We are here first and foremost for our students. But I think that their safety and some of the things that's going on amongst some of the people that are using our facilities, we need to make sure that our children are still safe and taken care of and not exposed to things they shouldn't be exposed to. Yes, sir.
What I was just gonna say, I would like to see that they have to have security. I'd like to see that they are responsible for paying for that security.
And that needs to be
16.
certified.
Right, off-duty officer.
Correct. It needs to not just be
Somebody, they just go out and
Paul's dad, you know.
Whether, off-duty law enforcement or
Sure.
somebody like one of the security companies.
Taxes,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah. But a bonded, insured.
Sure.
Mr. Watts.
I would certainly agree with Mr. Hammond's suggesting, Mr. Walters reiterating, for some events. But for every event that the community groups do at our facilities, I don't know that.
That would be my question as we shape this,
Yeah.
cause this would be, I guess, multiple drafts or at least one more. We have to identify a parameter, is it a single use and involves kids only, or just public use, that's the kind of stuff we have to work through. Scott Bennett will certainly help us on that.
It could be basketball game, football game, I can see it.
Case by case.
But some lesser impactful or lesser potential.
There's not a big
Problem.
attendance or certain purposes like that.
Yeah.
I understand.
It could just be worded case by case at the board's discretion upon approval, something like that. Just not making everybody do it, but, you know.
We may request it. May be requested, security may be requested.
Mr. Flager?
At this time, I'd like to say, making a motion to add 16, be certified, security personnel be present during activities. And then if we wanna just run that by Scott and either add as a case by case basis or not, but I'm just saying for now, just put it certified, security at each event. And I'd also like to say 17, that any non-profit, all these are supposed to be all for private profit. With that being said, I'd like for 17 to say that any board, nonprofit organization that is using our facilities has to have a set of bylaws that they provided before they're accepted. So I'd like to add 16 and 17 and get a motion, please.
All right, now, let me ask you a question there on that number
Give me a
17.
second first.
Second.
What about your class reunion people? They don't have no bylaws. Now,
It says though, non-profit organizations, it's usually on number 4 is what I'm going back to, that, any organization that's used, that's non-profit organizations, they would have to provide bylaws, of their board. So, and not necessarily we have to okay them every time, but our director, and anybody else would have, should be able to look at bylaws for any organization that's using our schools.
I agree with that,
But you're talking about a case by case on something different. That don't necessarily, I'm just saying for our community use of facilities, if it is a board, nonprofit organization, board or any board, we need to be able to have their bylaws, in front of us, or at least be able to access them.
So if they got them, we wanna see them.
Sure.
Well, I would suggest that occur to any that have a recurring use. It's a one-time event it's not gonna be an organization.
Well,
And I would say, if it's a recurring, my thoughts are that we insist they have set of bylaws. We don't want to just see them if they have them. But if they're gonna be an established nonprofit organization that's gonna use our facilities, recurring, that they do have bylaws that our administration's looked at as part of the approval process.
Yes, but they have to have.
Sure.
Sorry. No, if you got something on that, go ahead.
Well, Mr. Barnes just said something about how I was thinking more towards athletics with security. Now, if we have a church that's using a gym for something or a fundraiser or whatever, I don't think we need to require. I think it needs to be qualified, so to speak, and you're saying let's get with Scott. Because I don't want to paint ourselves in a corner.
I agree, I have those questions, obviously we'll get those answered. The frequency, the intent of how much, who we're gonna include as far as requiring these things, we'll get that clarified, Scott.
Sure.
So, are we having a lot of issues at these events?
They pop up here and there is the way I feel.
I think.
Are we having like parental issues or?
We have, behaviors that really don't belong in those kinds of activities.
Are we, gonna also include that they are required to pay for the security?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be a stipulation in the usage agreement that they would provide that security and meet certain criteria.
I guess we need to define further down, like you said, as to what events are requiring that.
And I would put the exact language that can help, but I would definitely put certified, insured, and bonded in the security. Whoever we require to have, they need all three of those.
Right.
Just because of liability.
Mr. Masters.
I guess I'm with it. I don't understand something. If we, number one, do we have a school employee there at these events?
We're supposed to, I mean, part of our agreement is have a school.
Sounds like
employee
the
there.
principal or whoever.
Right.
All right. Then I refer back to a question I asked you a while back. During a basketball game, we had an unruly parent. And they went to get the SRO, and SRO said he couldn't do nothing. Now, we're gonna have the same thing with
Well,
this? I mean,
if it's a, was that at a school event?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the differences. I'm not.
Well, I
I'm just
mean, that's
asking.
something I think we have to work out with, law enforcement. And it could have been a situation where maybe they expected the school administration to handle
Well,
it
that's-
before it got to the level they needed to handle it.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I asked the same question, why? SRO said they can't, they're not, whoever the administrator is of the event has to ask them to leave. If they don't, then they step in. But they cannot go tell them to leave.
So how out of control are we talking?
She was pretty belligerent.
Mouthy
Oh,
or
yes.
physical?
No, Maldy right behind the bench. And the AD had told her 4 times to be quiet.
It's just a community game?
I can
or
only be
regular?
responsible for me, but that person would have been escorted out of the game.
Well, that's what I told the AD. And
Well, you know, that's on our side.
Right.
I mean,
But that's the
there's a
school.
limit, and
You know.
maybe with the SO's comment, we should have insisted that lady leave, and then when she didn't, with that particular parent, then of course, then the SRO would say, now I'm gonna have to take over.
Right. But I can say, when I did mention that, he went and got the SRO, just his president made her shut up.
What school was that?
Boom.
But, you know, people get emotional.
Oh, and it
They
was, I
lose
mean-
their decorum, and they don't have a lot of good self-control.
But I guess that's what I'm getting back, if this is not a school event, is it gonna be the same? And, well, we're gonna have a employee
I would think
there.
if you hired a security company or a security guard, I would say they would need to have protocol. They would have game administrators if it was an athletic, youth athletic. But I would say the same protocols. They would need to try to address it with their oversight, and if they couldn't, if there wasn't security there, they wouldn't have that support. And we wanna make sure that that support is there.
I know in the summer tournaments, the administrator of that event, they warn one person once, the next officer takes them.
Yeah.
Sure.
Escorts them out. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
That should be.
And I just thought it should be the same on our school event. But I found out it wasn't.
Well, I think maybe I'd say again, it may be our process. We may say,
Exactly.
this is a warning, and if we have to come back to you, then you're gonna have to leave.
Right.
And then if they refuse after that,
Then they
then
step
law
in and do their
enforcement
job.
has to assist.
Mr. Odom.
So, one more level of this, which really may or may not be something we should be involved in. I've had community members reach out to me with concerns about the leadership of the athletic groups. What do we do about that? I mean,
That's not really, I
that's
mean,
a little
I
outside
caution
our
the board.
scope, but,
I just caution the board on that. If we have criteria in place, they meet it. And of course, if they do something directly, we address it directly. But I think the board judging people to be fit to lead another organization, to have that organization in our schools, I'm not sure about that.
yeah, that's outside our scope, but it seems like it is a problem.
I think
Could be.
though, if we require in certain You know, I think it's reasonable for the board, and it's not currently, but we required of our contractors. You know, if we have an organization, they should be able to give us proof that if they have coaches, they've done background checks, if they have certain leaders or officers in the organization, they've had background checks, just that we expect of our employees and our visitors that are in our schools every day, we can probably have that requirement of anyone that's utilizing our facility, especially on a long-term frequent basis.
Yeah, and I think they should be cooperative and compliant in just things that we ask of them. I think that's reasonable, and I think what we'd asked was reasonable, and that was met with unkindness. That's a red flag to me. So we just need to, I don't know, we may need to have, just keep an eye on it.
I think so.
Because, you know, some of the community members are concerned, so.
Well, their attitude was uncalled for, what we asked.
And I think as my last update in particular, you know, there's been an effort to meet the request.
We just need to follow up and make sure that it, I guess, we just don't need to have oversight, but we do. It's our kids and it's our community facilities, so we need to make sure that everything's on the up and up, being run as it should be.
Mr. Morris.
As changes, proposed changes are ran by Scott, I would suggest you ask him about a clause on concealed carry. Whether or not we will permit that, it doesn't currently say. Because we know the society we live in today, and, you know, if it's if a parent comes into a school, you know, I'm sure they know they're not supposed, well, they know they're not supposed to bring a gun. If they come to a ball game on Saturday.
It's still school property.
Absolutely.
It's still subject to no firearms.
No firearms.
No firearms.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's.
And any, we determine any violations of that would, I think that terminates the agreement, but.
Well, I think so.
That's good reason to have security, because you would have one gun there at least.
And of course, authorized, you know, law enforcement certified.
That's different.
But everyone else, there's still, it's a no firearms.
I agree, but we don't say that here now.
Yeah.
No, I thought it did, so.
Yeah, I mean.
By state law.
It is a law, but I mean, I think in a written agreement, there's probably a need maybe to include that explicitly.
Well, I was just gonna say, Scott could go ahead and drop some type of contract, like I said, or.
Yeah, we definitely want the written agreement to match whatever the end result of the policy is.
So these long-term rentals, do they have, or leases or contracts, do they have insurance that they have to provide for?
As part of our requirement, the board's requirement, they have to provide that insurance.
Have we been provided with that?
A proof of insurance? Yeah, they wouldn't be in our facility. But I will double check that.
Please do, because I just feel like we've just had this pact for so long that I don't know if things aren't falling through the cracks because we're just so comfortable in our relationship. And I think maybe, again, this is why we're here, because you've just kind of said, here you go. You're welcome to use it because you're dealing with our kids, but I feel like we've just kind of, the boxes aren't being checked off.
In my policy, especially in most cases, you know, the facilities, the contact to at least discuss the use of facilities is through the principals. Principals manage that at their building. There's some management from the district level too, but it starts at the school level. And school principals are pretty diligent in at least asking those questions about, you know, the insurance requirements and, you know, where's your proof and all those things. But we have moved to an online system where they have to walk through that system and actually submit a request. They've got to follow all the steps.
Any more discussion? Yes.
Question on number 10, when school kitchens are used, at least one where the cafeteria staff must be present to supervise the use of the equipment. Do we have, is that used a lot? Are the kitchens used much?
No.
At all?
Juana's Club?
There may be some certain fundraisers, but it's a very limited thing. very limited, but the thing is certainly they're very protective of the kitchen, our school nutrition team, as they should be. And that causes, and it's probably, some of it's related to some federal requirements. They've got to make sure they're included in any use of the kitchen.
And then when that happens, they're paid their hourly rate for coming in to do that.
They have to pay that expense for their time.
Guess I was looking for.
Unless they donate it, but if we, I would say most of the time they're gonna get paid to be there.
Mr. Ritter.
So, I guess what I'd like to see is maybe run some of this stuff by Mr. Bennett and look at it during the workshop. That'd be okay.
Yeah. And, like any policy except for major, like law changes, you all have multiple readings before you get to a point you approve, so. Sure. So definitely we want Scott's eyes and hands on it and, get to a workable policy that the board feels like it represents what you want to see happen.
Do we need to defer this motion then?
You don't have to make any motion.
But there is one on the floor though.
I'll take the motion.
Take a second.
Okay. Thank you. That makes
Just
it,
like that.
that makes it less complicated, so thank you.
All right, let's, meeting times. Mr. Walters, you made that
Yes,
amendment. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes. So, we're all aware of where I work, and I work swing shifts. And it has made it a little bit difficult to be able to attend meetings, especially when I work night shift. And I don't on day shift get off till 6 p.m. If it's on an off day, it's great, it's fine. So I have an either or. I would request that we could, and I hate this being about me, but this is just, it just is what it is. You used to it. Okay, thanks. I appreciate the support. But I love doing my job and I love doing this and I want to be a part of this and that as well. That's my livelihood. This is my passion. So I was going to request that either we could follow or put it on a day when I'm off or a day shift. And maybe change the time to 6:30 start time. If I'm off, I'm good with whatever time. But if I work day shift, I don't get off till 6. So I could be here momentarily right after that and ready to start by 6:30. But I took off early today and it cost me about $130 worth of time to be here tonight, which that's fine. I signed up for this, I was elected to this, and it's not a burden. If I need to continue to do that, I'll do it. But this is just a plea. So,
6:30 for both workshop and school board?
Yes. I would need to, and I know that we've been here till 10 o'clock and we've started the workshop at 5:30. I mean, I understand that, and I hate to even ask this, I really do, but I really love doing this and when I'm a small part of a big pond here, and I love serving with you guys, and I would just like to continue that. But I'll be here no matter what. If I have to just take time off, it'll happen, I'll be here. I'm just asking for us to discuss. Nobody's gonna make me mad with any question you got. If you vote it down, that's fine, not a problem. I'll still let you.
How many months is it gonna be a problem?
Well, I've provided the chair a yearly schedule. I know my schedule a year in advance. I haven't researched that yet.
So right now, it looks like, everything except for November, December for the next year.
Yeah.
Is what was on here.
So
We used to start
board meetings at 6:30.
Yeah, we did.
Beats what we used to do, and it was
I mean,
changed, just for employees helping them get home early.
I know, and I hate to
But they're
do
not
that.
here now except for Brad. For Brad.
Oh, you got somebody
Oh, yeah.
behind you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Whitaker.
And I know they're cringing.
Oh, yes, my
Kim,
friend's behind us.
Elliot,
I know they're cringing, and I'm so sorry. I'll give you a little Jesus.
can we go back a week? I mean, do it the second
So,
Thursday.
has anybody got,
I don't
like,
want,
our meeting schedule? Like our dates? Cause I don't have every one of them.
The board's only approved through June, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if we could look up to June, and then that'll give me time to research after June.
And then the board will determine, the next year's.
Right.
Yes.
And I'll have that 3 months in advance. I'll have next year's 3 months in advance, so, I mean, it just, and like I said, there is nothing worse to me than talking about myself. I hate it, but I know if I don't bring this up, that I'm, you know, I'll make it any way I can, but, I just thought I would try this first.
I think it's important for the system to be on a consistent day. I guess it's now first Thursday of the month. It's important for the system for many that are attached to the meeting and weren't ready to, and the start time, you know, I mean, personally, I don't mind shifting back some, a little bit later. But I'd like to make a motion that we get out before 10 o'clock. I'm kidding. So,
I don't vote, but I second that motion.
I'll third that.
check with the,
yeah, I remember the days that Keith said, I thought we started at 7 actually.
it's 6:30, wasn't it? When I first went on the board,
When I first came in, it was 6:30.
that was 19 years ago,
Yeah.
6:30.
I know, it's a, I better not say this.
But, I mean,
Videos on.
if it's always been the first Thursday of the month. I can't support going nowhere else except the first Thursday of the month. And I'll split the difference with you. I would support going to 6 o'clock. I mean, I was one that was upset about going from 5:30 to 6:30, from 6:30 back to 5:30, cause it was hard, but I ain't milking cows no more, so.
I just think it's very
And I
hard.
understand what you're going through.
I think it's very hard to get here at 5:30, especially during the summer when the sun's out and there's things to do, but
Well, my only thought is you got employees here and I hate to see them spend 14,
That's-
15-hour
yeah.
days. I mean, and they're on salary, they're not paid by the hour. I mean, that's my, me personally, we care less, but.
Let them send, they can do a split shift and let them go.
Well, how about if the ones that's here, how about if we give them an extra day, 2 days off a month with pay?
They can comp their time and we'll work with them, maybe. I'm just kidding.
He's a tough boss, I don't know.
And if it's gonna put a hardship on that many people, then I don't wanna do it. I'll work it out myself.
I mean,
I've
number
worked it
one,
out
we
this-
serve, you know, especially I do, and my staff supports me. I mean, we serve at the direction of the board.
Yeah, but I'm not like that.
Well, just being, I mean, and then I think there was another comment about maybe some community input, you know, the commission starts their meeting at 6. And I think the reasoning is people feel that community members, if they do participate, they're more able to. 5 o'clock for workshops and 5:30 for board meetings, maybe early for some. It depends on the community.
Yeah.
My previous community, they felt fine with a 5 o'clock board meeting time. And they were usually out the door by 5:45, but, that's a different community, it's not this one. And, we starting at 6:30 doesn't, I mean, like I said, I'll be here if you decided you wanted to have a midnight, I wouldn't like it, but I'd be here at midnight.
Well,
We've been here at midnight before.
I believe if we started at 6, if the time's an issue, the 30 minutes is an issue, I mean, I believe I could be here shortly after the beginning, so, I don't think it's a problem. But if you wanna keep it on the same day, same time, that's fine. I've got comp time. I gain it every day almost, so let's wear it out.
I'd like to work with you, but I don't know that it has to be the first if you're working days the first week, we don't have to meet the first week. I know that's breaking with tradition. I'm not a really traditional person, but, if it's the second week, third week, or whatever, that's your 7-day break, which, I know that's when you have your vacations and stuff like that, but,
I'm flexible, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you have the workshop, that's the end of the month. Then we come into the new month and we have our meeting. So after our meeting is the first of the month, then you got the whole 2-3 weeks. And then we have our workshop, and then,
Well, and if it helps, I won't be here in May I'll be in Vegas, so I won't be here in May, so June's all we really gotta worry about. Cause then we vote on,
where are you going in June, or Vegas?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
For what?
School board meeting.
Yeah,
School board meeting,
vacation.
are you going to
Vacation.
WrestleMania?
Oh, that's right. Training and mental health.
It'll be over with.
That's amazing.
Desert familiarization. Desert familiarization.
I'd just like to see what dates it work with, because, just like our
Well,
workshop.
I've got my schedule and I can provide my schedule and would love to provide my schedule to everybody on the board, so you can look at it, everybody.
It's not an easy task though, when you start looking at it, I just want to tell you. it's
But I'll
not an
even
easy task
highlight
when
my
you
days,
start
my
getting there.
nights and things like
Tell me when to
that.
be here.
But like I said, you all do what you do and I'll
It's
do
just
what I
easier
do.
for me.
So.
I
That's fine.
do wanna just suggest that, like Mr. Martin said, the routine as far as, if possible, identifying a day and saying that's the day.
Yeah.
I think for the
Sure.
community, just for cycles, I think it's beneficial.
So can we move to 6 PM for May and June and see how that works out?
Like I said, I won't be here in May, so.
Right, but
You know, it doesn't
does
matter.
anybody have an objection to that? Cause I don't think we have to vote on this, do we?
No,
It's just a,
Chair.
I think the chair can determine it, but you certainly,
Well, I
it's good to have the support of the rest of the.
that's exactly right. I don't want to make that decision without the other 8 people. That's just not right. That's not
No, June.
or kind or anything else, so if we can just move them to 6 PM, see how that works out, and then we'll look at schedules and
Is that
things like that.
workshops and board meetings?
Yes,
So instead of 5, we go to 6, instead of 5:30, we go to 6.
yeah.
I was
We
gonna
moved
tell
the
you,
time on the board meeting, some you moved it in.
I was gonna tell you all June's dates.
Yeah, but when I started,
When
I
is
was
the
at
June,
6:30.
when's the June meeting
and then we moved it back.
scheduled?
The June meeting?
June meeting is the 5th.
Okay, we're on the 6th.
So if the June meeting,
So I'm on my 7th, the 5th of June, so I'm good. I can be here whenever,
let's also
whatever.
pull out your calendars and see what we can decide for a called meeting in April.
The scheduled workshop's Tuesday the 22nd. And then the next week, we have the top 10% banquet, so that week is, already has that in the calendar. And also the board meeting's May 1st.
So we have the 15th. Anybody not good with the 15th? Anybody having your taxes done that day?
Taxes ain't due to May 1 now.
Oh, yay. That's good information to know.
If you're in a flood zone district, which Washington County is.
Oh, wow.
Well,
I didn't realize.
I didn't realize
Save a
that.
little longer, Jack.
If I don't send money in on time, and I say, cause Mike said so.
That's my
My money
sense.
and I need to.
But I got a new CPA and that's what she told me. She said May 1st for flood counties.
Okay, so April the 15th works for everybody?
This will actually be a call meeting.
It will actually be a call
We'll
meeting.
advertise it as a special call meeting.
6
with
o'clock.
the Budget
6 o'clock.
being the item.
So that's budget call meeting.
April 15th, 6.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
6 p.m.
We got a couple months with the audience here.
6 p.m., correct.
I hate to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else before we dismiss?
Just wanna say, and I'm sure everybody here prayers with Jennifer.
Yes,
Absolutely.
We
absolutely.
love her, wanna see her get better.
All right, meeting adjourned.